is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. How you like that, Rob? Thank you so much for stopping by or downloading us or getting us. However you're getting us, we just appreciate that you're listening to us. And so do our unbelievably amazing authors. Tonight we got some young ones, some not so young, and some from around the globe. I'm not kidding you. They have seen the light. They have found the way to accomplish their dream of getting published. So check it out. How does a 12-year-old with dyslexia grow up and fulfill his dream of becoming a pilot? That's what Mohammed Bajeri writes about his book entitled My Miracle Journey. But it is about that and so much more. Mohammed.
Yes. It's not honestly only about that, but it's just about accomplishing things when you have been doubted all the way to accomplishments.
What happened with you?
First of all, when I was in my country, which is Saudi Arabia, I was in a British school, and they thought that I wasn't fit in the normal classes because I always struggled reading, doing math. So then they discovered that there was something wrong with me. They didn't know what it is. I traveled all around the world. I went to Greece, I went to Kuwait just to get diagnosed. And I ended up getting diagnosed with dyslexia. And after that, they said, we can't teach your son. I stayed about half a year without going to school. I used to wake up seeing my brothers leave to school, and I was the only one who didn't go to school. I thought I was missing something in my life. After that, I went to Kuwait, and I was so young. I was about 7. A school accepted me for once, and I studied there. But when I studied, I felt that there's something wrong because I'm studying with students who would forget my name the second minute. They would ask me, what's your name? And then I would tell them my name, and 5 minutes later, he would ask me the same question. But I'm not like that. So after that, I came to the US. And I stayed in a boarding school. It was really hard because I never left my mom, and honestly, I used to always be depressed. I feel, I really miss my mom. After that, I continued my education in the US. I had no problems. I went from a boarding school to a normal school. I stayed with my brothers, and now I study as a college student.
Where are you in college?
City College in Miami, and I study EMT paramedic.
What a great story you have. I mean, for such a young man, you've managed to pull yourself through. Do you think you'll ever fulfill your dream of being a pilot?
Being a pilot is something I left a long time ago. After I got my private pilot license, when the instructor told me that I can't be a pilot.
So he's saying
Yeah,
because you're dyslexic, you can't be a pilot.
yeah. I continued half a year later. A new instructor comes in. He's in charge of the flight program. I started flying. I was perfect, doing everything, and I loved it. But is it something that I want to do, like in a long term? No, I wanted to enter the emergency medicine field.
Okay.
I love working with people. I love helping people most of all, and I'm doing great at it. Thank God. This book, the title is My Miracle Journey, but my miracle journey doesn't end just yet. Um, what made me write this book? I talked to a lot of people around the world, and a lot of them, would always say, I really hope one day that you would make a book. And mind you that when I wrote this book, I was 15 years old with the help of Rohan Iskander, and he's pretty much to me like a mentor. I started publishing this book at 17 years old. I finished publishing about the age of 18, and I want to make sure that people around the world understand that not just because you have a disability or any sort of issue, that means you're done with life, you're set for life. No, 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 no. If you have an issue, that makes you more obligated to go and work and do and strive, for the best and the top, and pretty much just enjoy your time and do what you love to do.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
you really quick, a quick question? You're from Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
You're
I
in the
am.
United States.
Yes, I am.
It's a strange time to be here.
Yes, I know it is. Yeah,
Have you felt
yeah.
any backlash or do people judge you
A lot.
because
a lot, especially when I was in the aviation. I hated my life, you know, but I couldn't make these, you know, stupid comments bother me or stopping me from achieving something. I accepted it, you know. Once the chief of the aviation program came to me, he said, "Oh, hey, you know, Mohammed, how are you?" I told him I'm good, and he said, "You're gonna fly." I told him, yeah, I'm just finishing up my tow card. Tow card is like the weather and everything. He said, well, be careful about for the buildings out there. I told him, don't worry about it. You know, I think I'm good. I can see it, these kind of things. And he made all the people around me laugh. And inside of me, I laughed just not to make him look, ridiculous. But inside of me, you know, why you have to say something like that? Because, you know, I don't have intentions of doing anything, you know, I barely harm animals. You expect me to harm humans. And the people that are represented now in the news, this is no such way of my religion or my country, because I represent my country over here. I have to be respectful. I'm a guest in the United States. I come here as a guest and I leave as a guest. I leave as an educated guest. I'm here to do one mission and one mission only. I come here, get my education and get my experience, and I go back home. You know, I'm not doing anything different, but we're an easy target. They target us as an easy, you know, religion, easy country. But other than that, a lot of Americans, when they go and see the Middle East, see Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kuwait, their perspective changes.
Well, Mohammed, I'm sure you've changed the perspective of anyone listening right now. You are truly an inspiration, especially to other kids like you. And I wish you the best of luck with this book. You really are on a miracle journey. The name of our next author is Awahadagi. She wrote a book called On Ash. It's a group of poems about overcoming abuse, self discovery, and just a powerful story. And yet another example, and we've had so many, of how therapeutic writing can be.
I think the title itself reflects probably one of the underlying themes of this whole journey. It's like ash, the simplest form, the most basic element left after everything that once was no longer exists. I mean, like traditionally, ash was used to cleanse food, to cleanse the earth, and to cleanse ourselves so we can renew, regrow, exist, and persevere. So on ash, it's the pure, most basic substance, really.
Okay.
And I began writing this not too long after I was forced to rediscover myself, examine myself in relation to love and everything that encompasses a relationship. Um, I was at a point where I was bare. Everything I had, save for my children, I no longer had. Like it just did not exist for me anymore. My home, my relationship, my day to day existence. Everything that I thought I knew about myself was gone. And well, there I was basically alone. So I needed to understand myself again. And the only way that I knew how to do that was to write. And I can honestly say that it was very difficult to revisit some of those moments I lived through because, in retrospect, I was able to see everything differently, everything deeper, clear. I began by writing about basic human needs, what I held true and what I still hold true. I wrote about inner love and strength. I wrote about spirituality, about desire, and I wrote about rising back up. So as I began to look deeper, I moved further into this life that I led. And this book is basically different parts of my relationship and everything that I had to go through and everything that I had to experience in order to build myself back up. And it was full of extreme highs and extreme lows. And I can honestly say that it was a very abusive relationship. I wonder now how I even, when at one point I remember thinking that I didn't even have the strength to leave. So I held on for so long when I should have probably just let go. And I was blindly loyal when I should have just opened my eyes and looked around and saw everything that was not right. But I tried to make everything work and I tried to keep it all together, even when during the lowest point when he actually had a loaded pistol held to the back of my head, I remember thinking, he won't do it. And obviously he didn't. And after, when everything was settled down, I remember thinking, this is as bad as it gets. It cannot get any worse than this. Tomorrow will be better. And it's crazy how that seemed to be like a reoccurring thought. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better. But it never got any better. So a few of these poems reflect the emotions and experiences that I felt during those moments. And to this day, I wonder why I stayed for so long. And I think writing about that stuff, writing about tragic events that happened, was a turning point for me. Like writing about the trauma, because that's when I realized how very wrong my life was, that it was going in a direction that was literally terrifying. And it led me to realize that basically I had become ash. I was bare, but I was cleansed. After everything was, taken from me, after I was by myself, I was there, but I was safe. My children were safe, and I think we were at a place where it was time to rebuild and persevere. So I can honestly say that I discovered my strength. And I touch upon that a lot throughout these poems: self-love, self-appreciation, and heart strength. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's another thread that holds a lot of these poems together, is just realizing how strong you actually are. When you need to be strong, you can just rise and just do whatever you have to do to get through, to be better, to make things better. That you have the power to do that. So if anything, I hope that anybody that does read these poems, and anybody that does get this book, they'll feel that for themselves.
I hope so too. You came a long way, Awahadagi, and you leave us with a lot to think about. Thanks for sharing your story. Tommy Scheider is a retired teacher and an ESL specialist. He's got a thing or two to teach people trying to learn English about pronouns. It's why he wrote the pronoun book. Now, we need a pronoun book because...
You know what? The reason behind the pronoun book, this is what I created, is called Tommy's World. And it's called Tommy's World, where a little is a lot. And the whole idea behind the pronoun book is that I wanted a book that really helped beginners, to give them a big, comprehensive understanding of the 7 pronouns. And there was never anything really available that addressed the 7 pronouns the way a beginner needs to truly learn them. And if you notice in the pronoun book, each chapter is a pronoun. In fact, the first thing before you get into the book is a song. It's called the Pronoun Song.
Okay.
And I use that book. I mean, the song is used throughout the whole book until you finish the book. And I said, because you know how people adapt to songs very easily. And the whole idea behind that was that if you were ever unsure, all you have to do is sing the song, because the song puts the pronoun and the verb together.
Okay. Can you sing the song for me?
Oh, absolutely. It's called the To Be Song, and it says, I am a boy, you are a girl, we are the children of the world. He is a man, she is a lady, they are my friends, and it is the baby. And that song, I use it as a reference. I said, if you're ever unsure as to what pronoun goes with what verb, sing the song, because that's all you have to do is sing the song, and it gives you an idea of how it's done.
Now, this book, I would think anybody who's teaching ELL or ESL could use it.
Absolutely. In fact, this book is a consumable book. It could be bought for the whole class. Let's say you have a class of 10, 12 beginners. It's a perfect book for them. Why? Because it's visual, first of all, and it's adaptable for students K through adults. It really is. And it's the first book, like I said, where each chapter is a pronoun, which suggested teaching strategies for oral and written practice. Okay. And the first page is a picture of the actual pronoun. For example, if you look in the book, the first pronoun is I. There's a picture showing someone pointing to themselves saying, I am I. Okay, so there's always have that visual in front of you. Then there's a template. Now, the template is used for, let's say, older students, because the whole idea behind the template was to break down the pronoun in all of its usage. in the affirmative, the negative, contracted, and the contracted negative as well. Okay?
How
Go
do you
ahead.
get this
That's your
book to the people who should be buying it?
What I do is I promote the book. I go to the TESOL conference each year. And the TESOL conference is where my audience is most likely going to be there. You know, I have bilingual and ESL teachers, and it did very well. A lot of people were very interested in it, especially teachers who taught students that were beginners. So I get quite a few sales. And what happens is that, and I also have a website where anyone who's interested in the book can preview the book. You know, it has that you can preview the book. It has the purchase links, and it also has the contact information as well.
All right, Tommy, you got this whole thing figured out, don't you? Can you imagine being an ESL teacher, Rob? I can't imagine learning English. The there, the pair, the pair. Oh, my God, forget about it. All right, Mr. Music says we got to take a quick break. When we come back, an author who's been here before comes back for a visit, proving once you get going on this writing thing, it's really hard to stop. Don't go anywhere.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Hey, thanks for coming back to the Page Publishing Book Club. That makes us so happy. Stanley Brown joins us again. We last talked about his book called The Quest, and now he's written a follow-up. It's called The Wanderer.
Yeah, it picks up 2.5 years later, and the first thing is I update what happened to the people that The Quest covered. The first book, there's a settlement known as the Woodland Community, and there's a bunch of different races that live there. The book is full of elves and dwarfs and fairies and gnomes and goblins. And there's a dwarf princess named Princess Andra and an elf prince whose name is Prince Care. And they want to mate, but their parents are against it because they're afraid it might cause dynastic problems. Prince Care's mother suggests that they go in search of the old ones that she feels are very wise and might come up with a solution. And so what they do is they gather up a group and they go in search of the old ones, and they have a number of different adventures. Eventually they find the old ones, and the leader of the old ones explains that there is no difference between them because both groups, the dwarfs and the elves, originally came from a race called the Dwarls. And when they split into the dwarfs who live in a cabin beneath a waterfall, and the elves who just have regular homes. After they get their solution, they come back, and the fathers agreed to let them become mated.
Okay, so now what happens?
Second book is based mainly on the exploits of a cousin of the prince and his blood brother, a gnome who wants to do some traveling before he settles down. So the first place is to the kingdom of the Western Mountains, where Cana's older brother Colm is mated to the queen, who's an exotically beautiful elf. They have a lot of ships that travel up and down the coast. And so they get a place on the ship called the Wanderer as bodyguards. And they travel down the coast to a number of different places where they meet a couple of different races, one of which is the island of Illyria, which has a very tragic history. The problem is that there are only women on the island of Illyria, because if men stay there, they come down with a wasting disease and die.
Oh, my gosh.
And the women can't leave, because if they leave, the same thing happens to them, so they're trapped on the island.
What inspires you? I just have to ask you real quick.
Okay. Actually, it's kind of strange. When my youngest son was very little, he was like 4 or 5, he didn't like to eat his vegetables. Okay. And so, but I found that if I told him stories, he would eat everything on his plate. and anyhow, so I made up a bunch of stories. I'd be cleaning up while he was eating. And I turned around and looked at him. If he stopped eating, I said, "If you don't eat, I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story." And he really wanted to hear the story. So I told this whole thing to a friend, and she suggested that I write a children's book. So I sat down to write a children's book called How the Gnomes Discovered Mushrooms, but I didn't call them mushrooms. I called them Willy Willy Lump Lumps. But when I sat down to write it, the story took over by itself. And so rather than being a children's book, it ended up to be this trilogy of adult romantic fantasies.
Oh my gosh, Stanley, you have some imagination. I will talk to you again after book 3. Jerry Lawyer is a retired trucker. He spent almost 30 years behind the wheel, the last few driving a tanker truck, and now he's written a book called A Trucker's Story. Now, Jerry, this is about a guy who graduates from law school, meets a trucker named Homer White, and what happens?
He tells them about what this country's about. It's kind of my way of telling people, they need to get out and explore the country, but it's not really a travel brochure,
No, but it is. You know what? People who haven't seen the country don't realize how diverse it is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's different cultures in just one country.
Yes, it is. It's like going to Europe, except, you call it France and you call it Italy.
Yeah. Well, we have Little France, Little Italy's. I've been to Canada and Quebec, and they speak French. It can be confusing, but you have to be polite to people wherever you go,
So Homer starts sharing all of these stories with this young man and says, hey, how would you like to drive a truck for the summer?
Right. Back when you could do that, they have the CDL thing now, but back in, I explained that in the book, what he had to do at that time.
Uh-huh. Well, he says, hey, you want to drive a truck for the summer?
Yeah. Basically, something weird happened. I really don't want to give away the surprise, I guess, whatever, but it's kind of a fantasy thing.
Okay.
Not exactly mine, but it's something I came up with. It's different. Something
happens to this young man.
Yes, and it's completely life-changing for him, that what happened, and then I don't know how else to explain it without giving away what I really don't want to.
Okay, so we have to read the book to find out what.
Yeah, I had several friends that say they enjoyed my character I created. I created another character that he met on the road. But I'll give you that much.
Okay, so he meets somebody else on the road. Does he ever become a lawyer?
Yes, he does actually.
Oh,
well,
okay.
He comes back after some things happened, whatever. But and he becomes a lawyer and lives the quote life and all that, and things happen. It's kind of his life story in some ways. It's not what happened to me exactly. It's just fiction.
Right. But did you have any weird experiences on the road?
Not like what's happened in the story. I've come upon accidents and stuff like that, and it can turn your stomach. It's just when they're right there. And I've seen a lot of things. Actually, I wrote this probably about 10 years ago for my kids. Been kind of estranged from them. Their mother didn't allow me to talk that while they were underage. That's another story. Well, that's why I wrote my last book. Same thing. It's a way to get to know one another, and then we talk about things. And did you really do? It's a good way to get conversation started with my kids.
This isn't your first book?
No, it's not. This is my second one that I have published. I've got 2 to 3 more stories.
Okay. Are you going to publish them through Page?
I hope to. I've got the next one almost ready. It's I got to go redo a few things, but
okay. You're just finding the time
now.
Well,
it's to get all this stuff and get it ready, and so they're right. But because I do characters throughout all the stories.
So you'll find the same characters in both books.
I relate to a character in my first book, in this book. And then in that book, I related to this guy. Mostly the story, it's mostly about, you need to get out and see the country, at the beginning part. It's a beautiful country. Follow your dreams type thing, or something like that. I have several ideas. I work at it every day, but not.
That's what you do now. You're an author.
Yeah, I do that. Yes, and I like riding my motorcycle. That's my main hobby, but.
All right, Jerry, be careful out there. Finally, Benito Heiliger is a banquet manager at a hotel, and he found a creative outlet through writing. His first book is called First Kiss, and he credits a lot of encouragement along the way. Benito.
Other friends told me, why don't I write a book? So I decided, I took him up on it, so I went and I did it. I'll base it on male and a female falling in love and the first kiss. The story is about two youngsters falling in love during high school at a young age. And he brought his attention to his mother and his parents, and they told him, well, that won't happen because you have your school to finish, etc. And he went along with it, and it came out so that he finished school and went on to college. Eventually, they got married, and then she introduced her boyfriend to her parents, and the parents fall in love with him, but said they will make a good couple. And she went on so that they did make a good couple because they was married for about 15 to 20 years. In reality, they're still married.
So they get married and they have a baby, right?
Yes, they had a baby, yes.
And what happens?
They had children. The children went on, grew big and went on to school.
I mean, I'm just reading what you wrote, and, you named the book First Kiss. And do these people kiss each other every day, right?
Most likely.
It just sounds like there might be a little problem when the baby shows up. It says Tom is apprehensive with the arrival of baby Bobby.
Yes. He wasn't too clean and having a child right away. But if that's when you don't take precaution, well, that happens.
Right. So everything works out?
Yeah, everything works out at the end, yes.
And they live happily ever after.
Exactly.
You just decided, to do this out of the blue, or what?
Just out of the blue, I decided to do it. I started doing it about 5 years back, and I keep putting it off, and I said to myself, well, why don't you do it and get over it? You keep putting it off, so I said I did it.
So for 5 years you were thinking about writing this book?
Yes.
And you finally did?
I finally did, yes. Right now I'm doing some more.
Okay. Did you have a good experience with Paige?
Yes, I do. 3 months before the book was published, because I had to go through different stages.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's on Amazon for sale.
So are you hoping to keep writing?
Yes.
All right. You should write about your experiences at the hotel.
That's what I'm trying to do, yes.
Just change the names.
That'll be a nonfiction book.
There you go, Benito. And we are out of time, Rob the Engineer. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Atlas Stockton Rossini. See you next time on 710